Hey guys, after a 2-week hiatus, we are back. Something amazing has happened. The Crank Revolution Bike Shop in Hoffman Estates is now open. We want to thank you all for the loving support from the community that's made this all possible. We now get to live our bike dream every single day. I want to take a moment to tell you about 2 amazing cycling events coming up in Illinois this September. First is Project Mobility. It's the charity arm of Bike Rack in St. Charles. Their mission is to provide the freedom of mobility to children, adults, and wounded soldiers with disabilities through adaptive cycling. You can find out more at projectmobility.org. Their ride is coming up Sunday, September 15th, 2019. If you sign up now, you'll save $5 using the promo code CRANKREVOLUTION. Their ride, ranging from a 10-mile family trail ride all the way to a 62-mile road ride, takes place this September 15th, 2019. You can find out more on projectmobility.org, and if you sign up, go ahead and put in Crank Revolution as a promo code and you'll save $5. Also starting this September 21st, just a few weeks to go, is the Trail Hoppin' Brewery Tour. You can find it on Bike Reg. With sponsors such as Crank Revolution, Half Day Brewing, Bosaki's Homebrew, Mickey Finn's Brewery, Noon Hydration, Only Child Brewing, Prairie Crafts, Tighthead Brewing Company, and Walls Caps. With routes ranging from 26 miles to 55 miles, hitting a bunch of breweries for an amazing fun time, come on out to the Trail Hoppin' Brewery Tour. Also find it on Facebook. Now it's time for our show.
3, 2, 1, 0, ignition. Lift off.
Welcome now to the Crank Revolution Podcast, your source for cycling shenanigans. Listen now to our hosts, the purveyors of pedals, as we teach you more about cycling every single episode. So sit right back, pop a cold one, and enjoy our show.
This is episode number 13. So for our podcast listeners, if you're followers of Illuminati, just right now do a handstand, hang off the edge of your bed, or if you're on a bicycle, maybe not.
Well, no, just turn your headphones upside down.
Ooh, that's a good way.
Does that work?
That might work.
Well, no, because it'll be like a chin strap then.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if the episode's heard upside down, then it's not episode 13.
Okay, so
isn't
just like
that
your
how
bib
we
numbers,
call-
turn that 13 upside down.
You can't listen to it backwards.
No,
Or
no,
can
because
you?
it'll just be, and then all of a
Exactly.
sudden it'll be Paul is dead or something.
Listen to listen here at episode 13 while Crank Revolution summons old
Beelzebub?
demons and Beelzebub.
Fun fact, if you listen to this episode backwards, though, you might hear TC, but forwards you won't, because he went off to play baseball with his dad or something, I heard.
They went to have a catch.
No, I think they actually went to watch the Cubs play,
I
the
wanna go
Chicago
have a catch.
Cubs. No, they don't play catch anymore.
Greg, we'll go out back and we'll play catch.
Thanks, Mark.
Aren't you glad this is a cycling podcast?
Well, yeah, you should see me throw. There's a reason I pick up cycling.
Well, today is a very special episode, though, because we have an amazing interview. Now, people get into cycling for very, very different reasons. This interview will absolutely blow your mind. But first, let's take a look at cycling in America or worldwide. But the statistics are getting kind of crazy. Cycling is changing. We've talked about before when Merc and I were children, everyone had a bike, everyone rode pretty much every single day. That's not quite how it works anymore, is it?
No. I see a lot fewer kids out on bikes in the neighborhood that I live in. Granted, now that they know that I run a bike shop out of my garage, I see a lot more bikes on the road. I'm creating a biker gang.
Well,
is what
actually,
I'm doing.
The shop recently opened. And what has happened almost every day since then?
That is amazing. Yes, so the Crank Revolution Bike Shop in Hoffman Estates opened, and our first regular customers are a group of basically 7 to 9-year-olds who come tooling in on their bikes, and they're amazed that we don't chase them out of the shop.
And it's a group of like 12 of them.
Oh, yeah.
They all line up. They kind of fight over who gets to come into the shop first. They lay their bikes out against the wall so it's not in the way. They're like ridiculously respectful.
So they're getting used to the whole thing about only 2 kids at a time in a store?
No, that's the first thing is when they came in, they like tiptoed in like we were going to yell at them, oh, get out of my store!
Get off my yard!
But that does happen a lot. But what's funny, though, is it's not just one group of kids. Now, there is one kid who's in like 3 different groups, so he might be like a spy or something.
He's a ringleader.
But there are 3 different groups of children have been showing up. My fear is what happens when they all show up at once. This can be like a children's West Side Story.
Jets versus
When
Sharks.
you're a jet, you're
like
a jet.
sword fighting with spokes or something. It'll be fun. Okay, so saying that you don't see many kids on cycling, I'm seeing a ton of them at the shop, which is great. And there are regular customers. They show up like every day. They've even offered to volunteer. It's so cute. Can we volunteer? I'm like, I don't know if that's legal. But we'll have to get a HR on that. Crank Revolution HR will get back to us. With the kids coming into the shop, that's been a really awesome thing. But I think that when I grew up too, a lot of the grid pattern of where I lived had sidewalks. And
Right.
kids could ride on the sidewalk. It's not the safest place for adults or not where I recommend riding. But a lot of roads now where I'm noticing where our shops are all have that dedicated kind of bike lane to the side. So parents might be more comfortable in a really great community if there are those dedicated bike lanes.
Oh, absolutely. Because in my community, we have a bike path that goes around a pond. And that's where I see a lot of parents taking their kids out, riding the bikes and doing parent things.
Do you know just what warmed my heart, though? Of all those little whippersnappers, all of them have helmets. All of them.
All of them. No,
Yours don't?
my child does.
Ah.
Yeah, my child will not go out on the bike without her helmet. She has yelled at me when we got down the block because I forgot to hand it to her. At the shops that I work at, there's so many kids that don't wear helmets. And I don't know. I don't understand that. I've always worn a helmet. Did you wear a helmet when you were a kid?
No, I was thinking about that all the way through high school. I never owned a helmet.
It was actually the hairdo that you were afraid to.
well, I had the
ruin.
Dawson's Creek like part in the middle. I mean, that was just the way it was. I couldn't mess up my hair.
Even for me growing up, I don't think I started wearing a helmet till I was almost 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
that
made
sounds
you
about right.
What made you get one? Was it a crash
No, my
of a protective grandmother?
my father was just like, "You're wearing a helmet now." I think it's because he gave me a mountain bike and he goes, "Now you have to have a helmet." Before that, it was some old Schwinn with a hard rubber tire that had little plastic bits that would go up and down the spokes.
And what should you do when you dust off that old bike in your garage or basement? Let's check in with TC with what to do with From the Mechanic's Mouth.
Hey everybody, this is TC, and today's tech tip is about safety checks. So yeah, if you're pulling that bike out of the garage and you just want to make sure it's good to go, it's always good to put some air in the tires first and then do a small drop test. And so that's picking up the bike about 3 inches off the ground and dropping it so the tires to the ground. That drop test is going to give you a good audible cue so if there's anything loose, anything moving, anything not right with your bike. And so one of the ones that I've seen most commonly and most recently is that people's headsets are loose. And so if you get that drop test, there's a pretty low thud clunk sound. And so that's going to be, you're going to want to then address that headset specifically. And so for current threadless headsets, you want to loosen the stem bolts, tighten down that top cap bolt, and then tighten down those stem bolts once again. And that's a good way to check your headset is loose. Thanks, and that's From the Mechanic's Mouth.
But cycling is changing, especially in America. Now, we'll touch on some different parts of the world, but one statistic I found really interesting. Now, this is not fully out of date, but as of 2016, it was really interesting. The number of cyclists or bike riders had actually increased over the previous 3 years. But where it increased was actually in the adult population. What was interesting is when it came to kids like 6 to 17, that number was on decline. When you hit that 18 to 24, it's been relatively steady. I think the college years, the necessity of having a bicycle kind of keeps that a flat line. But kids are going down and more adults are getting into fitness. So the growth in cycling in America now is us.
But I also
It's the
think
middle-aged men in lycra.
mammals.
Well, and here's the thing too. It is the new golf. I have read that somewhere.
I heard that in an interview.
I know that's
It's the pants and the polos I can't deal with. I don't
It's-
mind some tight lycra with some stars and some flamboyant colors.
But I can totally understand why we're seeing a sudden uptick in adults cycling. You've got people with disposable incomes who want to do something with fitness, and they don't necessarily want to go to the gym every week and be a human hamster running on a treadmill or on a track where it's the exact same thing every single day. Now with a bike, you have a lot more flexibility. Heck, you can commute to work. You can go to the grocery store with it. You can do things with it you really wouldn't want to do while wearing your Nike Dry Fit running to the store.
You know what? I think the big thing, Greg did say it correctly, is that people are starting to realize their fitness level is declining. And instead of going to a gym, running lap after lap or minute after minute on a treadmill and going nowhere, you can jump on a bike and actually go somewhere.
I mean, I sit in a cubicle for most of the day. The idea of running on a treadmill for half hours, the exact same thing. I have nothing to stare at but the TV, and God help me, I don't want to do that anymore than I have to.
Can't keep up with the Kardashians.
Well, so here's my big thing though, is cycling obviously means a lot to all of us here. Some of it's a reemergence, some of it's fitness. There's all these different reasons that we cycle. If we don't find a way, though, to increase those 3-year-old to 18-year-olds, where will cycling be in 20, 30 years?
It'll be all e-bikes, like little mopeds, and we'll be running each other over. It'll be more like West Side Story. You're going to have the electric scooters versus the e-bikes.
But you know what? Jeremy actually hit the nail on the head. Where does it start, though? For me, it starts with me as a parent. My child will come home and go, Dad, we're going out riding on our bikes. Instead of sitting down in front of the TV, sitting down playing Minecraft, sitting down playing Roblox, or watching YouTube.
No, that's fair. I mean, I was talking with a few of my coworkers today, and they were complaining how a lot of the kids just sit on their iPads or on their Kindles or whatever. They're watching TV, they're playing apps. They don't really want to go outside like they used to. So I guess it comes back to what's the lifestyle of the folks.
Yeah, I know this is just another can of worms that I'll open up, is infrastructure. Is the United States doesn't have the infrastructure that European countries do.
Spoiler alert.
But it's getting better all the time. Like Chicago, we have our bike lanes now. Some people, Greg, we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah, I mean, in Chicago, you have protected bike lanes. I mean, in a lot of metropolitan areas, you have different styles of protected bike lanes.
Are they protected?
In some cases, it's just little cones that are up. In others, it's a paint line.
Or a police officer parked right in the middle of it. That seems protected.
Oh, that's my favorite. Something to Google if you're bored is bad bike lanes, and they're hilarious. Like trees in the middle of it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they...
Darn those trees crawling out in the middle of... Like, is that the biggest threat to cyclists or trees?
Actually,
well, depends on who you are, Jeremy.
Yeah, I've crashed into a tree. Shush.
Actually, one of my favorite memes on the internet is a sign. It's a construction sign that says, "Watch out for cyclists," and it's in the bike lane, telling the drivers to watch out for cyclists.
But when we say protected bike lanes, some places actually have segregated bike lanes where a car physically cannot make its way into it.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
No, but what's interesting is that you hear a lot of animosity towards the idea of these protective bike lanes because people or drivers, I should say, see that as wasted space. They could put 2 cars there or 2 people versus bikes that are freely flowing through that path.
Well, think of how much space. Okay, so parking, I understand parking. If everyone has a car and it's 10, 12 feet long, there's a lot of parking needed in Chicago. But if you get rid of 50 cars on a given 1 mile stretch of road and put them on bicycles, it takes up very little space at all.
It is 100% correct. There's other things that are on the internet that shows the space difference between a car and a bicycle. I mean, it's obvious how much space difference there is.
So America is getting better with bikes, but yes, in Germany you might have super highways for bicycles. Like one of the ones that I was reading about was Copenhagen, Denmark. So one thing that was interesting, they're considered to be one of the most bike-friendly cities in the world. And tourists that go there are just overwhelmed by it's like flying gnats, basically cyclists just left, right, making their little spinny sounds like our intro, where you just hear all the buzzing of the Chris King hubs.
So if you're walking on the flowers, you think you're either going to be attacked by a bunch of cyclists or bees?
Thanks to the measures they've taken for the city, nearly half of all the Copenhageners, does that sound like right?
That actually sounds perfect.
Copenhageners
Well,
commute to work by bike.
Doesn't work.
Wait, actually, it's more than that. Every day, 750,000 miles are cycled in Copenhagen, with 62% of all citizens commuting to work, school, or university by bicycle. That is insane.
I think that the funniest European stat I have looked up was in Amsterdam because it's all based on canals. There's 800,000 residents. Virtually each resident has a bike, but 12,000 to 15,000 of them end up in the canal.
Why?
Well, either theft, vandalism.
Well, they're doing
my
theft
favorite-
wrong.
wait,
You don't
wait.
steal things to throw in the canal.
My favorite, though, is wind.
No.
Yes.
This is not Mary Poppins here. Bicycles don't just all of a sudden start flying up into the air into the canal.
When you started saying that, I thought you meant all the riders were ending up in the canals. I
Yeah,
didn't
there
realize
is
you meant
actually
the bikes.
there's another stat on that one too, but that's
Okay.
a totally different episode.
They're out down texting and they go right into the water. No, actually, that does make sense. It is a little surprising, though, that there'd be so much vandalism of bikes, considering they're everywhere. So would be low demand, I would imagine, to steal it.
No, actually, it's the reverse. Some of the, like in Germany, where there's so much more prevalence of actual bike riding, where they have trains whose entire cars are nothing but bike parking lots.
Oh, that's awesome.
We don't have that here. It's like, well, you can take the 2 o'clock, but the other 10 trains, you have to leave the bike at home. It's very different. But now what happens when you have such a big populace, you're going to have a lot more theft.
Yeah.
If I leave a bicycle outside, somebody who likes bicycling might steal it, or they might see a value in it. But when everyone is riding bikes, they go, that's a nicer bike. That's a nicer bike. And they'll start stealing it.
So
That's
it's like
really
the hermit
sad.
crab population. Someone will leave their bike there. They'll take the nicer bike and they'll keep going. Like
Oh, thank
hermit
God.
crabs where
Oh.
they exchange into
No,
larger
that's great. I
shells.
thought you
actually
knew that
kind
I've
of-
been stealing hermit crabs, so never mind.
You've been stealing a hermit crab?
Yes, there's theft at all levels with bicycles, but when you start having communities that are much more aware of bicycles and they're riding them, you're going to also have huge numbers of theft. Just huge.
So what was the other issues? You said wind?
You explain to me then how a bike just magically ends in a canal by wind.
If you don't lock it up and there's a wind gust because it's low land there and it can get knocked over into the canal.
Is everyone parking next? You're saying that people
They-
park directly 2 inches from the
Correct.
edge of the canal.
So they just put
Yes.
the kickstand
well, that's
down.
just
and it's gonna be
stupidity.
Well, no kidding.
fine. Hold on. Does that mean the bikes have little water wings up on the handlebars? Because that's
That
adorable.
would be fantastic.
Cut episode. We got to make a product.
we just saved all of Amsterdam. Oh my God. Oh well, no, that'd be worse because when the boats come through, there's just
No,
all
as
these
soon as it
floating
gets
bikes.
exploding
No,
bikes
it's,
all over.
it's just handlebars and a saddle just sitting there. We can make little saddles that explode and look like little rubber duckies. This would be adorable.
Oh, that would be perfect.
I want to make this.
So anyhow, let's take a quick moment and jump over to Greg without the Giggle Twins this week for Vela Vocabulary.
Welcome back to Vela Vocabulary. This is Greg. The girls have all gone back to school, which means they're getting an education that is a heck of a lot better than anything I could do for them. However, this means the pop quiz this week is for everyone out there in podcast land. Are you ready? The first word this week is berm. No, not perm, like the hairstyle I had throughout all of high school. I swear I was going to bring it back. And you know what? All the women in high school never gave me the time of day. Anyway, what does berm mean? Do you have it? A berm is a bank corner in mountain biking that as you enter into it, you're going to gain a lot more speed because you don't have to slow down, which means as you're coming out of it, you'll be at higher speeds. Which gets you ready for our next word, send it. Are you ready? Just imagine you're descending down a hill. You don't know what's coming up. You got rock features popping up at you. You got trees that are whizzing by you. And you know there's this jump coming up. You don't know what to do. All you need to know is you need to send it. You got to harden up because here it comes! Maybe that's just easier said than done. Back to the studio.
So with so many more Americans actually getting out and cycling, and it's a growing thing, and we're saying as the adults, though, we have to make it popular with kids again. But I think the hard part is all of our physical activity as kids came from gym class. I didn't get to cycle in gym class.
Nor did I.
No, I think the only time I got to cycle with any school was in preschool, where they had the little the little red
Safety
tricycles.
towels.
out.
Safety
Oh,
down. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the trick, though. But I think that the reason that it wasn't part of gym class was because every child had a bicycle at home. So it was already expected. Well, you already do that. Today's youths or utes, it's not the same thing, is it?
No, not at all.
I'd say everyone's got a Nintendo Switch these days, it seems.
Not everyone.
Not everyone.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
I do.
YouTube is easily accessible. Kids don't want to move from a couch. I mean, even my kid, I have to go, honey, you've been sitting in front of that for a little bit. Time to go outside. Come on.
Well, so that's the key is we still don't have cycling per se in schools and elementary schools, but now you don't have that bike at home. There are a lot of events, though, that are trying to get kids into cycling again. Like last year, we started doing an after-school kids program specifically to make kids excited about bikes again.
But
I mean,
yeah.
it was the science of cycling. I literally had 100-mile-an-hour blowers with toilet paper teaching drafting and wrapping people in toilet paper. It was amazing.
It was fun too.
Yeah, and it was just such a great time, but there needs to be more than that. There needs to be the big public events. Schaumburg, Illinois had a huge outdoor festival where it was all about getting kids and families bike riding.
Yeah. Aurora did the same thing.
Yeah, one of the events that we have in our area is usually around the 4th of July, where they will encourage all the kids to show up with their bikes, and they'll do a little obstacle course with the kids so the kids can actually race on this course. And I mean, it goes all the way down to little ones on the balance bikes who are just throwing their legs like it's a hobby horse trying to get down through the course.
Not only that, every cyclocross race during the season has a kids race, and it's the same thing.
Well, the thing that I really like too is certain cities, at least by us, and I hope it's true for all of our listeners all over, BMX is coming back. They're actually building BMX parks and all these stunt and trick parks. I guess you could use for skateboards too, but it is getting out there again, bringing it more mainstream little by little. Because you don't want kids to just have to stumble on cycling. Some people do, though, don't they?
Well, some just pick up a magazine and they figure out, hey, I want to do that.
And now we have an interview with one of the most inspirational cyclists I have ever met, Hannah Jordan. Overcoming major medical challenges her entire life, started cycling at age 14. Through absolute grit and determination, she's out there winning state championships, going to the Worlds, racing trains, saving turtles, and crushing hill climbs. Now let's welcome to our show, the one, the only, Hannah Jordan.
We're here with Hannah Jordan. Hannah, you have accomplished a lot. Who is Hannah Jordan?
I'm a competitive cyclist. I learned how to ride a bike 4 years ago. No one would let me ride because I was a kid that has a feeding tube running out of my stomach. They're like, oh, Hannah, yeah, we can't let you ride. I did not learn how to ride a bike at that time because I was sick for most of my life. Before I started cycling, my heart was enlarged, my gut kept shutting down, my lungs collapsing, brain sagging over the skull, sleeping 20 hours a day, like literally everything that could go wrong went wrong. And including I got to tie it with a bow, a Make-A-Wish strip, which is basically, like you see on the other side kind of thing. I know everyone looks at it as like a good thing, but when you're an actually person that, that's getting it, like your mom's like gonna vomit in the bathroom there. So I tell people I got a free trip for nothing because I'm still kicking.
Way to play the system, Hannah.
Yeah, I was like, you guys saw it, I was checking out, but I'm still here. When I did the first 10 days learning to ride a bike, I did 210 miles. My first ride was I picked up a baby turtle, crashed 7 or 8 times, and named it Lucky. And so that was my first ride.
Wait. I'm sorry. You picked up a baby turtle?
I stuck it in my backpack.
So did you keep the turtle?
No, we stuck him in a nice pond because there were some people that were not too happy about that when I posted on Facebook. So I'm like, okay, we'll put the turtle back. I was just trying to help it. In the next month and a half, I did my first metric century, and I did 63 miles. The very next day, I came to watch my buddies, the Bixby Bicycle Group, and they took me in under the ring. They're the first group. I was like, Mom, I want to do that. And it was, of course, the Oklahoma State Championship for crits. That was my first race. I just got clipless pedals the day before that. It took me a mile and a half to get clipped in, and I finally get clipped in. And there was like 27 kids, and I just started picking them off, and I took second at that.
I know people that can't clip into this day properly, and you took 15 minutes?
Yeah, pretty much. We have a motto. It's called tuck and roll. So.
Yes. No, we're familiar with that one. We do all of our own stunts.
Oh, yeah, it's go big or go home. You can't just do it halfway. You got to go all insane. 5 months later, I did my first century, 101 miles. And 7 months after, I learned how to ride a bike. The shop guy, he was like, Hannah, I don't know about this. He's like, you should just do the 63 miles. So I was like, this guy pulls me over, one of my friends, who's a junior's dad. And he's like, Hannah, if you want to do this race, I'm going to pay for this ride. And so it was 5 minutes before it started, and I do the 101 miles, and I did it in 5 hours and 18 minutes.
Her first century was faster than my first century.
Yeah.
Yeah, your first century is faster than all of my centuries.
And I did it solo, too, to add on top of that. So fun random fact that I always forget about that, but yeah.
For everyone else out in podcast land, how much elevation was that century as well?
I'm not sure, but it was at hotter than hell, and the heat index was 113.
Ooh.
So, yeah, it was quite a toasty ride, if I'll put it like that. It was not exactly warm, nice, happy climate. It was more like a death wish.
No wonder she got done so quickly. She knew air conditioning was waiting for her.
Or, nice, cool slushies, all that kind of stuff.
I do ride for ice cream.
The next month after that, I did this race called Race the Rails. You basically have to beat a train. Only 40% of the men beat the train, and so I was just turned 14. You have to average 21 and a half for 32 miles. So, yeah, I was the youngest person to ever do it, and then it went global on Global Cycling Network, and then I got my sponsor, Conago, there.
The thing I find so amazing is, so you were 14 at the time, right?
Yeah.
What kind of superhero thing is it like, by the way, you just got into cycling, now beat a train? It's very Superman type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's Looney Tunes. I remember so many Looney Tunes where that was the plot of the episode, which is you had to race the train in front of it, and Daffy Duck would have a jetpack and do it. She's doing it on a bicycle.
Or the little bird that goes meep meep.
Yep.
Roadrunner.
The
Yeah.
Roadrunner. Yeah, there you
So
go.
why bicycles? What did you see? What really inspired you to go, yeah, let's ride bikes?
I was never really allowed to play outside like most kids. You know, most people expected me to watch the world go by. My blood sugar in the past went as low as 9 and over 600. So I wasn't, you know, the kid that, you know, people would pick first, you know, in gym class or whatever. My mom's coworker gave me a shot. She's like, you want to run this 5K? And I was like, sure. So we ran about 4 times and I did a 5K and I took first in the 1400 division. I was always mentally competitive. It drove me to the point of insanity. I picked up this Oklahoma Sports and Fitness magazine and I was like, Mom, I want to do this. And she's like, what is it? Hannah, you do know that's a triathlon, right? And she's like, you don't know how to swim and you can't ride a bike. How are you going to learn how to do that? And I was like, I'll learn. The first time I even got on the spin bike, in the first 30 minutes, I did 10.7 miles. So she might be good at this. Then it just kind of kicked off from there.
So you've had a lot of people trying to tell you not to do this because of a variety of reasons, but you keep succeeding at all these things. Has a physicist sat down with you to test you? Maybe you just break the laws of physics by who you are.
I think I did because I was actually diagnosed with low muscle tone, and I can actually leg press 500 pounds 16 times.
No.
But 225.
Have you talked to Marvel at all? Or?
Yeah, are you sure you're not a superhero?
Well, you just gotta be really stubborn to be able to do anything you want in life.
I want that on a t-shirt.
If anyone wants anything in life, you just have to keep fighting hard enough. And I think that comes out of any kind of that anyone goes through something tragic. You have to be resilient in anything you do. If you want it bad enough, it's not that the superstars or the celebrities are really all that cool. It's that they did the things that nobody wanted to do.
What are some of the things you've had to face out there that have been rough?
I think almost everything in my life has been rough, but that's kind of never stopped me because if anything good in life, you have to be able to handle the rough road. And there's a saying I read once that the hardest path always leads to the greatest journey and the easiest road leads to the hardest path. Everyone always tries to take the easy way and it always ends up being harder. But if you always put it on the hardest level, everything else is easy.
I'm firing my old life coach. I'm hiring her.
I know, really. You got another good career ahead of you.
Have there been any crazy stories from some of these events you've been in, though?
I've had a couple crazy stories, mostly because riding with women is sometimes scary because they're all moms. Just picture that for a second about an angry mother at her kid that's not her kid. So in one race, I literally had someone grab me by the jersey like that, pull me back, final lap to go. I stay up, she takes second, and I take 15th. And as you can imagine, little Tinkerbell over here has got a bright red face ready to go off. But my mom was like, save it for the car, and she didn't realize that it was an illegal move. I mean, you don't just go touching some random kid. Like, that's like an assault. That's like a real crime.
Well,
Wait,
that's
so
an
it is.
illegal move in,
So-
in cycling, though.
Wait, so it wasn't another
Illegal
rider?
move in life.
in life, yeah, true. Yeah,
That's a
I mean,
cheap move.
But
Wait.
Mark Cavendish got DQ'd for doing silly things like that.
Wait, what state was this particular event in?
Kansas.
In Kansas. I think they have full contact cycling in Kansas.
Oh, is that what
we
it
just
is?
learned? Yeah.
Instead of a bike helmet, it's a football helmet. You got the shoulder pads on for the full contact
Yeah.
cycling.
Oh, yeah. See, you know, people say it's not a contact sport. I'm like, you've never raced the women's field, have you?
Most of those people haven't raced at all if they think it's a non-contact sport.
Another one, same race. I come back a year later, and we're in a field of 77. The biggest race I've ever done because, you know, there's not a big mass of women in a race. Everyone in the field of 77 there is a cat 3, 4, 5. That's a pretty wide range because the women will sit in the field a long time. It's basically cat 2, 3, 4. And so she takes out 6 of us. My leg's been at 180 degrees, turning somebody else's handlebars. Spinal corner go again. My butt behind my saddle, while I'm clipped in the other leg, and then my arm cocked in like this. So it's basically like a human twister, and the Hulk had a kid.
A nice yard sale, as we like to call that. Bottles everywhere,
Oh yeah.
shoes thrown about.
And so I had my hand secured to this very day because I'm double jointed. I thought I broke it, and so I pick up my bike, and there's a final corner, and I just like start running to that finish line because Lord knows I will never take a DNF.
So she's
There you
Chris
go.
Froome on top of it
Yeah,
all?
on top of it. Just as long as she had her bike shouldered, she's fine.
So did you guys watch the tour?
Oh,
Oh, Mark.
fun fact.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn the camera towards Mark for you.
Mark here actually did predict the Tour de France. Of all the different places saying it's unpredictable, he did predict it.
I predicted. I
but at,
knew
like,
he was going to
stage
take
10.
it. Oh, yeah. My production level anywhere in life in July is 0. It's stuck in front of the TV. I don't ride. I watch the tour pretty much all day. So, what's your question?
I wonder who won.
Bernal, Egan Bernal, 4th youngest winner of the Tour de France.
And the very first Colombian. to
Yeah,
win
very
as well.
first Colombian.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I hear they're working on a Tour de France for women.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
they have similar, but you can't call a duck a chicken. So
Yeah, because they do
Thanks,
they do
UCI.
the one day in Paris, and they just do that course for the women. Now, and I'm much older than the both of these guys. There used to be a women's Tour de France that was about a week long, I want to say, because back
Huh.
then they're off their head. They didn't understand anything.
Now, when you remember it, is it in black and white? Sorry, Mark, I had to.
I'm okay with it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the France needs to bring back the women's version again.
yeah, because I mean, I think there's a big enough market. Even cycling is a new golf. A lot of businessmen and
Yeah.
women will get on their bikes and start riding it bigger, regardless.
Sorry,
Because
Hannah.
I used to race, Hannah. Now, with your feeding tube that you have, has any officials like said anything, race directors or
So it's funny that you mentioned that because a lot of people used to joke that, like what you got in the backpack, super
Right.
food. We had it, approved early on by USADA early on. So
Oh.
started climbing the ranks. It wouldn't, affect that because I was already starting to get into the jokes, not jokes kind of thing.
right?
But I have had a race official try to say, yo, while you're racing with the backpack, you're going to have to take it off. But it's kind of weird, I think. But
That's
yeah.
you replied back with, well, where am I supposed to put the motor?
People
Go on.
like electric doping and stuff. I was like, why are you in a bike race in the first place if you don't think you're good enough to hang with the big dogs?
I like her. She has the best attitude ever.
I can't even hang on. I'm not. She's the big dog in my mind. I couldn't
That
even
is
hope
true.
to hold on to her wheel.
Aggressive Chihuahua.
Aggressive Chihuahua. I almost want to get that as a sticker for you to put on your frame, where that just because just like an equestrian, everyone names their horse something ridiculous, and you're gonna name your bike the Aggressive Chihuahua. I love that idea.
I gotta write that down or something.
Well,
That's
Yeah,
good.
you've got
you
dibs.
need to.
You
I
have
think that's
dibs.
actually going to be a good little opener right there. Hannah, the aggressive Chihuahua Jordan.
I think I'm tall, and I'm only 5'1", and I weigh like 100 pounds. I think everyone's short as me. But then I walk up next, I'm like, oh, you're actually taller than me. I'm like, that's interesting.
That makes you much slower in the headwinds.
Everyone says I'm like drafting off a Dorito turned sideways.
Now, do you only do road cycling?
I do, road mainly. I've tried BMX and mountain. Yeah, not my cup of tea.
I'm a road guy, so I'm very happy that she's sticking with the road thing. So, do you have any greatest memories on the bike right now?
Probably my best accomplishments were not the races that I absolutely won. It was the races when I felt like I gave it my all and I had nothing else to give. I think mostly because I'm stupidly competitive in everything, that it's not the big, cool podium moments. It's the one when you tapped in and you had nothing left and you kept tapping in whether you had something there or not. And actually, there was one a couple weeks ago at our crit series. I took 4th in it. That one, we were hitting like 40 in the flats, and I thought that was pretty fun.
I feel like winded right now. I've never felt winded in an interview.
See you later, suckers.
So, what was the best event that you think you've done? The one you're most proud of?
I'd probably have to say the Kansas race. That one has a funny story attached to it.
So, not just the Kansas race you just did. This is a different event.
Yeah, this one was a different one. It was the Tribula series or something like that. There was these 2 women, and they were smashing the field, and I was right behind them. And they're like, is that a junior behind us? And they're like, I think it is. Like, did we lap her? And then the other girl goes, nope.
So let's take a moment, though, and let's plug a little bit. Are you still raising money on the GoFundMe for the World Championships?
Yeah, so they can go to, if they're a business, we have a 501c3 that they can go through. It's called No Boundaries. And then we also have a GoFundMe. It's called Send Me to the World Championships. A lot of stuff adds up, and we're trying to go for the goal.
Well, we definitely wish you the best in that, but I think the thing is, too, you've obviously been killing it with cycling as a whole. You're going to go to these World Championships. Tell us something about Hannah Jordan that's not the cyclist. What are some of your passions in life? What are some things you want to do in the future?
I've always had the need and the heart to reach people that have, medical challenges. I'm actually starting a medical company for feeding tubes, and I'm in the process of 5 to 6 medical pens, because a lot of these kids, their advertisement when I went to this conference for people with feeding tubes, it was their parents leaning over their shoulder while their kid is doing homework. It's not living their best life. I don't think. I want to help them, even if no one is 100% fully always there. I want to help them live their best life now so they can reach their destiny right then.
Speechless.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You've lived more life and have done more than all of us put together. Holy
but
cow.
does she have a podcast yet? Wait, no, don't say that.
No,
Don't
she's
say
gonna
that.
she's gonna get a
She's gonna
podcast.
start one. Don't
She's gonna
do
get
it.
a podcast.
It's funny you're saying about the life coaching. I don't know where I'm going to go with that one, but I actually have a thing to help kids so they can live now, because we live in a world that's the most disconnected and connected world ever in society, because a lot of parents will stick their kids in front of a phone as their babysitter, and I want to help them to be able to reach their dreams and how to live their best life.
So Hannah Jordan, cyclist, medical intern, inventor, nutritionist, life coach. What else do we have to add to that title?
Saver of Turtles.
Saver of Turtles.
yeah.
Starting the foundation. Also, let's add that one in there.
Now, do you have any social media that people can try to follow your events so that way they know where they can dot watch you for any of these events?
Yes, I have. It's all under the same handle. It's Hannah Jordan Cyclist on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's where they can find my little adventures.
Well, Hannah, you have been a huge inspiration to tons of people out there. We truly do wish you the best in everything you're doing. It's just absolutely amazing. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh,
It's been cool to get to know you guys and the little doggo.
Let me tell you a story about BMX racing. This takes place in Belgium at the World Championships. It's been raining most of the day and the track conditions were super slick. There was a lot of crashes going on. But Elise Willoughby, who is the U.S. hopeful for this race, actually crashed in her first moto because of this, but she stayed consistent throughout the rest of the day, and she lined up at the final moto with the best of the best, which included Laura Smulders, the defending world champion. The race went off. Elise took the whole shot and led the race completely through. She wound up winning decidedly over the defending world champion, which she took second world title of her career in 3 years, which is just an amazing feat. Now, she will be able to defend this title in Houston in 2020.
And we are officially back. And we're happy to be back. The Crank Revolution Bike Shop in Hoffman Estates, Illinois is now open. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, leave us a review. If you find yourself in the Illinois area, look up Crank Revolution Group Rides on Facebook and come join one of our amazing rides. Also, we love when you send feedback and new ideas. Go ahead and send those to crankrevolutioncycling@gmail.com. You can follow our podcast updates on Facebook at Crank Revolution Media. And as always, guys, get out there and ride.